From the moment that the civil rights leaders rushed in to continue James Meredith's march, there's been a struggle to see whose philosophy would guide the steps. The philosophical struggle deepened as the march column moved deeper into Mississippi. The voice of Stokely Carmichael, young leader of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, spoke louder and louder. At Greenwood, he sounded the march's new rallying call.
It's time we stand up and take over. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power. We want black power.
In SNCC, we saw a changing movement tactically. Our focus was on empowering communities.
We don't have to be ashamed of it.
Not only politically, but in terms of culture and identity.
What do you want? That's what we gonna get.
What they were basically saying is that black people needed to appreciate black. And it wasn't a color, it was a culture. When I was growing up, to call a person of color black was considered derogatory. Those were fighting words. But there was a term that was used as well during that period, white power.
Stokely Carmichael gets control of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, and he purges the organization of all white people. He said, you go back and work in your community. We want to have total control. It rippled throughout the movement.
I will never forget Dr. King's face when Black Power first began to emerge. He looked like the most stricken man.
We must never forget there are some white people in the United States just as determined to see us free as we are to be free ourselves.
We were taught that there were good people and bad people, and we never viewed this as black against white. We're taught that racism was a sickness, and you don't get mad with sick people. They just don't know any better. They've been taught that they are better than you.
What do you mean when you shout black power to these people back here?
I mean that they are oppressed because they are black, and their rallying cry must be black power, so that they can use that to ensure justice for themselves.
Martin's very uncomfortable, but he knows that he has to be there to support the courage of Stokely Carmichael without supporting the message or the form of the message. Dr. King was not opposed to power, but to elevate so-called black power over white power would break that which he was seeking to build, the coalition among white and black people.
I feel that while believing firmly that power is necessary, that it would be difficult for me to use the phrase black power because of the connotative meaning that it has for many people and the feeling that this may represent a desire to rise from a position of disadvantage to one of advantage, thereby subverting justice. On the other hand,
some of the people on the march were intimidated by the whole effort of black power.
They must ask themselves why they are afraid of the word black and why they're afraid of the phrase black power. And
as long as we were talking about nonviolence and all that kind of thing, everybody felt comfortable.
Do you think they're really afraid of it or just feel that it's not a good thing?
Anytime when we talk about black people having power, the assumption is that black people want to be violent against white people.
Mr. Carmichael, are you as committed to the nonviolent approach as Dr. King is?
No, I'm not.
Why aren't you?
Well, I just don't see it as a way of life. I never have. I grew up in the slums of New York, and I learned there that the only way that one survived was to use his fists. I realized
when Stokely became chairman of SNCC, he had a different approach.
And for me, it's always been a tactic and never a way of life.
He believed in self-defense.
Could you comment on that, Dr. King?
The Negro has an opportunity to inject morality in the veins of our civilization, and for this reason, I will continue to preach nonviolence. I will continue to...
Martin was an amazingly tolerant, understanding father figure for all of us. He understood Stokely's frustrations, and he never took it personally. I think Dr. King never forgot that we were all on the same side. He didn't have any enemies.
What I remember was the listening, the patience. He was always there. to say I don't go there, but I want to really understand why you go there. But that was the first real breach in the nonviolence commitment that many of us had grown to accept.
I'm sick and tired of violence. I'm tired of shooting. I'm tired of hate. I'm tired of selfishness. I'm tired of evil. I'm not going to use violence, no matter who says it.
I had not, before meeting Dr. King, ever taken the option of violence off the table. We are a minority living in the belly of the beast. When Dr. King stepped in, he methodically would look at violence and challenge those who would seek the gun as the solution. Because morally, you cannot defeat the enemy by becoming the enemy. But Stokely really believed that in the long run, the gun was going to have to be the answer.
And we begged the president, we begged the federal government. That's all we've been doing.
I accused Stokely of being just an angry, frustrated young man.
It's time we stand up and take over. Every courthouse in Mississippi ought to be burned down tomorrow to get rid of the dirt.
Anger eats away at your own soul, and it hurts you. Everybody has a right to be angry. Everybody has a right to be frustrated. But if you give in to your anger and your frustrations, you're going to lose.